Hi, welcome to Smileys. So, we are still doing Fall of Light, chapter 8 today. And once again, it's Lee's turn to summarize the chapter. So, strap in for about 2 hours, give or take. So, hi Lee, how are you?
Yeah, yeah. Hello, I'm pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm waiting to see. This was a good chapter, so
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to
it's
see.
uh, it's one of those chapters in Full of Light where nothing really happens, but so much happens. Just
Yeah,
we're gonna get to it. You'll see. It's one of those chapters. So,
it's a
without any
very good
further ado,
chapter. Yeah.
it's a
Hmm.
very good
Oh, you're
chapter.
starting off.
Yeah.
Go on, go on.
I think the 1,600 words that I have to recite are probably enough to give people the idea of what kind of chapter this is. So I'm not gonna bore you too much with the preamble. So, scene
Mm-hmm.
one, which
Yeah.
is titled "Enough with the Horse Thoughts." All right,
Yeah,
because
good,
that
good.
happens. So, riding through the forest to their post as newfound officers of the Huss Legion, Pranzak and Dathnar are, as always, engaged in conversation. And of course, the bridge finds itself back into the conversation. Their education and knowledge brought them to this, and why? Well, because they abandoned their posts, for the bridge they guarded held more worth than they attributed to it. They should have stood back to back and thus face all manner of dire threat, from the treacherous wind to the unleavened night. They could even face their own wretched imaginations and venal commanders. In other words, it's the consequences of their actions coming to bite them in the ass. But also, they are mocking the post again, as if they haven't done so already. Yeah. Dathanor pretty much picks up on what Prazak is laying down. The latter is not particularly fond of Silga's ruin. Indeed, Prazak has seen white crows. Now you stare at the camera and laugh. With softer regard,
Why?
and likens the two men because Silgas's title is the White Crow in Lathari mythology. So it's like I have seen white crows
Yeah.
with softer regard. And it's like, I get it because this is one of the more obvious ones. There's a lot of these though.
Yeah.
He likens the two men to carrion on a battlefield, a feast for crows, if you will. Dathanar is impressed with the metaphor, and he contends that on a battlefield, black and white dominates, in all, a misanthropic place ill suited to civil debate, because priorities.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, says Prazak, we were gentle. They came from somewhere, doesn't matter where, and found themselves in a virgin land with majestic streams and trees and rich ores. Even then, Dathna replies, there were crows of black and crows of white to keep things simple. Prazak agrees. It was simple enough for the forges, for the endless devouring and subsequent befouling of nature. Why, they must have been hours of dark at the time as well, though they knew it not. Regardless, they can look back upon those gentle times and take note of all the gentle murder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Destruction thrives in indifference. The Taist may have been asleep, calmly and calmly disposed, while all around them nature was systematically murdered. Civilization was ever simple in its demands. It's only now, in Coral Galen's advanced age, that they are making a complex mess out of the simple needs of a flourishing civilization, because they're no longer flourishing. And so, Prazek longs for the rural, to keep things simple. The white crows on one side, black upon the other. Foes clearly delineated from comrades, every field a battlefield. Simple. The rural finds him, alas, but not in the manner he wished. He's an old man with his aches. Now he does pull out a piece of gristle between his molars, and lo and behold, the conversation shifts from civilization and the bridge to more pertinent matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. His complaints are akin to those of peasants, and Prezak agrees. Peasantry defines itself in miserable self regard, and surely he's achieved that. He finds himself a purveyor, I pronounced it wrong probably, of unheralding skies, not unlike the peasant he's purported to be. Were his feet on the ground, he would shuffle one or two to nudge along his slow thoughts. Dahna concurs that as well he does so, if only to lay claim to the ground he stands on. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't understand exactly what this metaphor about like shuffling feet and whatnot is about. I do you have anything?
I don't think there's much there. I mean, it does come back when they talk
Yeah.
about the runaways whom they round up, and they all shuffle
Hmm.
back to camp. So I don't know.
Right.
Is it anything deeper? I'm not sure.
I mean, given into these two, probably. I'm just not smart enough to understand. I
Maybe.
think it's
Yeah.
something to do with like more peasantry acts rather than like strutting or peacocking. They're just shuffling along. They're scurrying along. I don't know. Maybe something like that. I
Yeah,
don't know.
like the opposite of what these guys are doing, right? They're riding,
Yeah.
so distinctly unpleasant. Like,
The peasant then, Prazek claims, knows the stony soil beneath him and is not as uncomprehending as one thinks. He observes the passing of armies in column, and the smoke above the trees, and the flotsam in the streams. Alas, more pressing concerns are about the wind, the weather, the firewood, his wife who is pacing ruts in the cabin floor. Dathna contends she might be sharpening stakes or tending a babe, but Prasek replies that in tending said babe, she would notice that the bars of the crib mirror the greater bars around her own cage. Jesus.
I know.
Okay, that came a bit out of nowhere, but
Yeah.
sure, yeah, why not? But at least her husband's an honest, hard-working man. His hands and fingers are blunted from years of labor, he limps and he squints, but at the very least he's an honest man, not prone to abuses. Alas, Praza contends, come the summer, a company of soldiers recruits, nay, press gangs, the poor fool. They shove a spear into his hands, and they have him wave flags, be they white or black. Perhaps they even take his wife if no baby is present. And thus they march to war, reduced to simple thoughts pertaining to aches, the weather, and the seasons. At least until battle's time, when every notion of civility is done away with.
Yeah.
But wait, Daphna says. What are the heroes? What are the stirring speeches? Where's the glory in all of this? When those farmers stand in a ragged row, feet shuffling, with a limp and a squint and a tick, tilting heads to listen to the winged bag riding back and forth on a confused horse before Dahana gleefully mimics the horse for our sake. But we
Yeah.
have to get to pertinent matters. The king's speech. Wait, what king? No, let's amend this. This individual, who is a he, mind you, very important, is a
Or a
king in
she.
his own mind. If it was a she could be a queen in her own mind. This is not a she,
Yeah.
this is a he. A crowded skull indeed, with monuments raised capable of beggaring any beggar, which is a delightful quote. Um, See him march up and down as a sign of self importance, wearing different guises as befits the moment. Is it any wonder he casts coy glances at mirrors as if whispering of adoration and worship? About time we got out of his skull and actually got to the speech, yes?
Yeah.
Uh, Indeed, Raza concurs, since the two of them are so busy, so caught up in noble notions and thereby unaware of peasants by the wayside, because they've not seen any Daphne replies, but Raza counters that they must surely exist in principle, and the former invites the
Yeah.
skull to war. Prazek begs a moment to compose himself, and says that he sees a week at least. God, this dialogue's amazing. I'm gonna quote it at the thick of this rate, but yeah. And
Go
Prazek
on. Go on.
begins what is probably the single most sarcastic speech I have ever seen. Now, summarizing such a speech would be immensely difficult. Suffice it to say, Prazek and Elena are each embodying the roles of chorus to excellence, and thereby each fulfills the role of king, who is Prazek, and or peasant, who is Elena in this example. The peasants, wretched minions, instrument of Prazek's will, are gathered here on the eve of battle at dawn. Very important, because
No, no, no. It's
just
done.
read the
Yeah.
entire speech again. It's amazing. And the battle is theirs, while the glory will belong to Prazek. Indeed, the situation is of utmost simplicity. They are here, while the others they must fight are over there, and he trusts there shall be no confusion in this matter. I just bumped my mic. I'm sorry.
No, no issues. And the only
So
reason they're fighting is because they're here and they're not there.
yeah. Dathana claims that he has a brother in those fighting over there, but Prazek replies that he is no brother of his, and moreover, that his mother is a harlot and a liar. Should they win, he will be most pleased, but if they fail, it will be most displeasing, as it incurs a high likelihood of having his skull cracked open, spilling forth minarets and towers and the like, which would be most unbecoming. Was that succinct
Yeah.
enough then? Um,
Shall we march to war?
yeah, just Just read the entire speech yourself. Like nothing I can say about it makes it any better than it is. It's delightful.
Hmm.
The two
Maybe if
men.
you had to meme that,
Yeah,
if you had to
yeah.
meme this speech, it would be the one from Shrek. That is a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Yeah, it's exactly that speech. Yeah,
Yes, it is.
yeah.
It's the same. It's the same energy. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So the two men are mentally exhausted and elect to speak of prisoners. Prazek begs for a distinction to be made between prisoners of crime and prisoners of duty, albeit here in this glowing mud, no such distinction can be made, though they are not yet upon battle's field. Now, Prazek, of I Curse the Poet fame, stands up abruptly in his stirrups, claiming that about them there is a pillager of prose, a looter of language, and this scene just broke all of the fucking walls. Yeah,
no,
I don't think
this
there's
whole
any wall
chapter,
left standing.
it happens repeatedly in this chapter.
Yeah. This is the most overt one, right? Where it just goes like,
Yeah,
"There's a
yeah.
poet among us," but yeah, the rest of the
I think
ones
the
are more
Kellaras
subtle.
one is also high up there. Kellaras grabbing an
Yeah, but that's
imagined
in his
poet and
thoughts, you know. Like at the very least, it's in his thoughts,
oh,
not literally like
do
about us
you
as a guy.
see Prazak and Dathana don't have a filter. What they're thinking is what we're listening,
Yeah,
right?
that's true. That's
So
true. That's
it's the
true.
same. Now,
Yeah.
and then
Daphne disagrees. They absurdly imitate the noble cause, and Prazak concedes. Let's ignore the ghost for now and ride on in silence, for he must prepare his rousing speech for the Hust soldiers.
the
Foreshadowing.
prisoners.
Uh,
Yeah.
Daphne replies that his speech will surely win their hearts, but Prazak only needs a sword to cheer. A score of crows of undisclosed color, alas.
I know.
As
Yeah.
if he was. Yeah. Make their way overhead, and though the two officers exchange troubled glances, neither speaks. Thank God. Yeah. This was a scene.
Yeah.
It's both hysterical and extremely deep, and it's probably one of my favorite between the two.
Yeah.
Just the sheer density of this whole scene is delightful. Like from the pulling out the gristle from his mouth to changing conversation to,
Yeah.
you speak ill of Silka's ruin?
As they're
Yes,
no,
I
as
do.
long as they're struggling, he keeps trying to dislodge it, right?
Yeah,
And once they're done with that conversation, she takes it out.
yeah,
I don't know. Steve likes this chewing gristle
yeah.
metaphor for
I
many
don't
things,
know
right?
why, but yeah. I mean, I guess he
It's a
does.
good one because we've all had experience with it, right? It's a good metaphor. Are we moving to scene two?
I guess we are, which is named Abyss Take Us Kellaras because yeah,
What? What? That is
yeah.
such a disappointing title. Come
No, this
on.
is the one where Kellaras has a 5-page bath and just
Oh, please. It's so good.
bear with me.
This exact scene is where I decided to hell with all this plot details and who cares what the first son is
Yeah,
doing and
because there's
I can't be
none.
bothered.
There's none.
No, it's like why this is so good. He's talking about so many interesting things, and then what the hell? Why do I care about this Anamander searching for Anderston? Who the hell cares? That's exactly how I felt when I was reading this section. So I changed from a plot reader to a I don't know what reader now.
Yeah,
Fall of Light.
right.
It's good. Yeah, just that.
Well, yeah,
Okay, please we'll try to change the section title when we do
right,
the
right. Yeah,
PDF.
we'll change the section that. Yeah, yeah, of course we will. So,
Yeah.
riding to the hold, Captain Kellaras of Anomander's Houseblades is brooding. Of course he is.
Is it?
He's
Surprise,
riding.
surprise.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
unfettered wilderness about, only held in such a state as a royal mandate, because of course, has led the captain down a stream of thoughts he would not otherwise be able to indulge in. Kellaras does not descend into the civilization bad mantra that has been leveled at Steve, which is such an odd complaint because that's not. But whatever, personal grumbles aside. Instead, he realizes that nature put forth a challenge to the spirit. In its beauty, its wildness, nature challenged people, and an easy
That's
answer to such a challenge
indifference.
would be to flee, or destroy it, or wholly submit. Kellaras thinks that even before great cities and villages sprang up in Kurgalain, His people waged war against the wilds from the very moment they discovered the gift of fire. And that war is still ongoing, and the Thais have nearly won. Nature is constantly yielding, as it can do no other. The monuments of civilization's victory are born of the corpses of nature. Stone, wood, and ore are all but spoils of this unending war. The Thais are therefore constantly surrounded by death, and though they try to capture the beauty of life with dead materials, all they are able to construct is simulacra, imitations of nature's beauty, and even in this book, I can't seem to be able to escape Kadaspa's influence. God damn it! Yeah, there's
Obviously
like
not.
an exact quote in chapter 13 that talks exactly about this. But yeah, go figure.
Chapter 13 of Forge of Darkness.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it is 13. Yeah. Just,
Yeah.
go on. It's
Somewhere
a great
when
chapter
he's
as always.
riding. Yeah.
He's writing and he sees a dead body and it's like, okay, well, don't judge me on how I fail in painting something alive with dead materials and stuff like that. Because of course he does. Anyway, Kellaras ponders then that art is potentially not but the attempt of people everywhere to recreate those first moments, a quest to rediscover things already known, recreating the beauty of what had already been slain. It would be a shock, he remarks, if an artist reached such a revelation. Art is a journey away from the first hearth fires and is intricately linked with murder. The first moment when one glimpsed the enemy at hand, the first taste of fear. If imagination was born of fear, then Kellaras at last understands this eternal war. People would be selective in what they choose to see. Blissful optimism, the ascension of deities, symbols of the triumphant spirit, but something would always lurk beneath, whispering of faint unease. Something within them all, Kellaras realizes, is empty, and all his attempts to fill the emptiness miss the point. If they could return to a world before the walls and towers, if they could return to the silence and isolation, to a forested land with nothing but forest abound, and the gods and goddesses would walk among them and kneel with them in humility. If only they were capable of understanding the word humility. Alas, the Tanks are not much interested in all this. Progress was demonic in its intensity, and nature had no place in the world the Taist were creating. Which is a monologue.
Yeah.
I did already mention chapter 13, The Forge of Darkness, but like it's the other direction of that. Like this is kind of ground already trodden, but in a different way. It's all very interesting to me because I'm doing after hours and seeing like the parallels. Because a lot of people invoke Kadaspa in their internal thoughts, right? Sandara from last book or last chapter, or Sander from last chapter, Tarinas, a whole lot of people, and nobody seems to be able to reach the same level of not necessarily understanding, but like Kadaspa. The difference, I'm going on a complete tangent, is Kadaspa affirms what he believes. Kellaras, especially later in this chapter, goes on thinking like, "What do you mean? What does Mother Dark mean? What's she trying to show me?" Like Kadaspa is saying, "This is what the point is. This is what I have to make of this," which is more interesting. So, I'm not entirely sure why we're retreading similar ground here, but I will withhold judgment because when we do retread similar ground later in this chapter, there is a point, which we'll get to when we get there.
Okay.
That aside, what are your thoughts on this monologue? Since apparently you like this more than I do.
No, this whole thing. Okay, one thing as you're reading here about the first art which came out of some kind of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think like Steve was talking about like these ancient Stone Age type of paintings where it's things which we fear is what people used to draw first, right? There is no drawings of like flowers or crops. It's like hunting and fire
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, like what he's trying to say here. And
Mm-hmm.
actually speaking, I couldn't like differentiate. Like it is so smooth between what P and D were talking and what Kellaris starts thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost the same thing. Like I had to take a minute and think that okay, this is not P and D. We are done with those two talking about how far civilization has moved from nature, and start. You know, it's more or less the same thought. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, To me, it makes sense, even though Steve is accused of having the same philosophy thoughts with everyone. But
which
as you
just
say,
is not
it's
the case.
no, it's not. Yeah, but it's similar, but they all have different things to take out of the same philosophy, right? Not everyone comes
Mhm.
to the same conclusions. So
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
yeah, it's the remaining of Kellaras's inner thoughts during the
Oh yeah.
bath.
There's a
That's what I
lot of
really
them.
like. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm waiting for. Go on.
So, as if to complete Kellaras's metaphor, the high walls of Tulakip rise from the horizon, and he angles to ride through the track to the hold. Even here, Mother Dark's influence is palpable. The area is unnaturally shaded, and the trees in their orchards, I don't actually know how to pronounce that,
Orchard. I think
do
orchard.
not
I've been
get
saying
nearly enough light. Yeah, I don't. You get the point. That word. Uh,
fruit garden.
do not get nearly enough light. Kellaras wonders if they one day might simply die out, albeit no such event has occurred yet, which is curious. Is Mother Dark's sorcery solely for the Diced's eyes? Is darkness merely an illusion, stealing away what others can rightly see? Is this a surrender of their will to the power of their goddess? Kellaras has heard that believers only selectively seek what they wish. Is this Mother Dark making the metaphor real? What's the point?
Great question, right?
Yeah. Good on
It's
Kellaras for actually thinking
so
this.
it's so unnatural. This new magic. They're so unfamiliar with it, and she's so quiet about the whole thing. Yeah, it's natural that they're going to question. Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah, go
And
on.
just like contrast this to Emerald Lanier from chapter 2, like, this is bullshit. None of this makes sense. I'm just gonna do it my way. You know? Like, this is what Mother Dark wants at the end of the day, right? Her to ponder these thoughts, no matter.
Who was that thinking about Kharkanas is probably dark now? Was it like who's Korea? Wasn't Korea thinking
Probably.
that Kharkanas, because it's so dark, everyone is in a pensive mood and everyone is sitting in with
Yeah,
their
I think
thoughts?
so, yeah.
That's what she thinks, right? See, she is a Mother Dark stand-in.
Oh yeah.
She's
We went over this last
exactly
book, right?
parallel to her.
Yeah.
No,
With her
Korea was
dolls and
this chapter, the dog runner when she meets.
yeah, but like we went over that motif a lot in Forge of Darkness because
Yeah,
she had her
yeah.
dolls to
Even
symbolize the
then,
Andy. Yeah, it makes sense.
true.
It's very well written. We're getting off
And
track. All
and it's
right.
continuing, right? That whole parallel thing is continuing. So
Yep. So
now,
his thoughts are interrupted as two figures step out of the hold to greet him. Hishtula and her husband, Gribgalas. He greets them and awaits the latest invitation, inquiring about the status of the servants. He knew this would be difficult given his station, but Hish is making him work extra hard for it.
as she should,
He,
she has
yeah,
every right.
to be fair, yeah. He responds to Hish's claims by claiming in turn that the wilderness has become a refuge. The forest invites solitude and she fires back. He's shattering the refuge with word of the war beyond. Why? Were Hish able, she would raise of the wilderness an impregnable fortress, and bathe it in the blood
Unwanted.
of unwelcome visitors. Kellaras has spent much longer pondering his thoughts on his way here and sees
Yeah.
through Hish's hypocrisy, admittedly. Though he does agree with the overall sentiment, because that's exactly what he thought as well, Hish's presence is due to wholly unnatural means, that royal mandate we mentioned earlier, and she faces no daily struggle. She would arm the forest to protect her, rather than to protect itself, which is hardly noble. Grip concedes the point and formally invites Kellaras within. Hish also concedes and requests the reins to take his horse to the stables, albeit she makes her displeasure at Kellaras's presence known again. Grip is somewhat more amicable, albeit reserved, and tries to soothe Kellaras into more mundane tasks. A bath will be drawn, the tales will be exchanged, necessary propriety will be observed, and Kellaras will go on his way. Trade stays that way.
Yeah.
Alas, Galar is not here for all of that, and Grip knows it. The old man has tensed, awaiting confirmation, and the captain gives it, which hardly seems to surprise Grip. He replies that guests have been few and far between, in a veiled warning to Kelaris. Now, before we move
Yeah.
on, I just want to mention that this is the first of many such differences between Grip and Hish and Kelaris. Kellaras spent a lot of the early scene thinking on nature and how civilization has moved away from nature, and like how the ties to wage war in nature and keep destroying it. And though Hish agrees with the overall sentiment, they disagree on a few minute details, and some tension is built up from that. And now Grip knows pretty much why Kellaras is here. He does. He should know that Anamander has fucked off. Um, so he can make a pretty reasonable guess as to why Kellaras is here. So he's not happy about it. Hish is very, very not happy about it. And the underlying tension being built up from their differences, rather than being expressed overtly, like say with the Leo-san, like Sintara and Hunral just sparring verbally with each other, and contrast this to this. Both are excellently written. It's just they very well demonstrate the differences in character between these two people. That aside, this is the first of many such instances. I will highlight a few more as we get to them. Do you have anything to add, Maura?
No.
No? Okay.
Just go on. This is like
Yeah.
the wrong point to stop. There's so much happening.
Yeah, sorry. So, the latter, Kellaras, tries to move the conversation to more amiable territory, and he speaks of marriage. The life of the two weds seemed to be uncelebrated, which an Amander would find unbecoming. Grip concurs, and he remarks that it's no wonder then that he left them an entire season. Kellaras denies Anamander's involvement, which shocks Grip, but the captain does not elaborate without his presence. Now, Grip's a witty bastard, and he picks up on what Kellaras is laying down, so the conversation moves on. A bath will be promptly set up, and Pelk, a woman who's bored out of her mind, will be sent to attend to him. Now, Kellaras, in the name of courtesy, tries to deny all this, but Grip insists, and the captain eventually relents. He will accept the bath, but as for Hish's attentions, he prays Grip will shield him from the brunt.
Actually,
The old
very
man
shield.
looks
Like
miserable.
he's going to help Grip face her, right?
I think it's the other way around, because Grip tells him, I would welcome a knight's attention, barring that from my wife, and you should not test Hish's temper. And he's like,
Yeah.
I have some really bad news, so I'm gonna need you to protect
No.
me from
The
the brunt
quote
of her
is,
words.
Grip asks, is it the bath or my wife's attention? And he says, the bath. He will see what comes of the bath. In the other matter, I shall bear your shield. So Kellaras is going to bear Grip's shield.
The bro code. Right, yeah. They're standing up for each other, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so the old man looks miserable, as one does, but he takes his leave and heads to the timber shed. Now, not long after, Pelk enters Kellaras' residence and begins to study the room, which doesn't look terribly tidy, and informs him that Grip is currently gathering the wood for the fire. Kellaras isn't terribly interested in small talk, and he cuts the chase. Pelk is a veteran
Does
of the
he?
wars, it shows. Yeah, I mean,
That is the
other than
small
say,
talk. Isn't that the small talk? Oh, you fought in the war, I fought in the war. That's the small talk. Are they going to talk about dust, cobwebs, and
I mean,
airing the mattress? And
I think they kind of want to, right? I think Pelk, Hish, and Grip would want something like that. That's what Grip tells him. Pray the night passes in such easy conversation.
okay,
No?
yeah, maybe, sure.
All right. But Pelk claims that those days are done. She was a houseblade to us company once, but she mostly trained the lady. Kellaras stumbles a little trying to compliment the woman. I felt that.
Can I
So the
tell?
matter just, yeah.
Can I add? The audiobook makes Kellaris so hesitant and so like giggly, nervous type of a voice. It's so perfect. Like I know that this dialogue doesn't have any ha ha sound or anything, but he adds laughter, like
Yeah.
that nervous chuckling and things like that. It's so good. Yeah.
Though the matter does not seem to be one in which Pelk takes pride, that is, training Hish. So he shifts gears and asks about the bath, and obliquely requests she join him. And then less obliquely.
Does
He also
he?
asks about, he kind of does, and then, would you need my attention? No, not necessarily, but I will welcome them. That's the more
Yeah.
direct one later.
He's not.
That's later.
Yeah. She asks him first.
He also asks about the presence of other guests. A wing has apparently been sealed off, but Pelk denies the presence of others in possibly what is like the worst lie I've ever seen, because it just like she pauses, like, no, it's just you. Yeah, okay, I believed you, thanks. And noticing that he's being fucked with, Kellaras does not pursue this course further. Instead, he talks about the season
It is the
and how it
season.
affects people, both Grip and more indirectly himself.
Yeah.
Belk asks about the bath one last time, and Kellaras would welcome her attentions, at which point she seems to be somewhat enlivened, claims it's the season, indeed, and leads Kellaras to his bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, do you have anything to add before we go on?
No, 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 no. Why are you stopping at all the good parts?
Sorry. Right.
No, yeah, but it's the season is good. Yeah. Should we make that the quote for this one? Yeah, it's the season.
Yeah,
Would be good.
okay. Sure. So, stripping down to enter the bath, Kellaras muses on how easily the mind moves from comfort to unease and how difficult it is to go the other way around. Belk is similarly disrobed, with the soldier's build unaffected by age, and with a scar right beneath her left breast, which is, well, where her heart would otherwise be, at least, judging by the angle of the
Normally.
scar.
Yeah.
Belk seems to have dextrocardia, which is a fascinating metaphor for making her
Oh,
heart
you got
difficult to find.
good. Do you
I
know
did, yeah.
dextrocardia is when the heart is in the right side? Do
Yeah.
you know what is it called when all the organs are switched? Like the
Citizen
liver goes
versus
to the left.
Totalis.
Very good, very good.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.
Thank you.
God, my students can't tell me all this.
Dextrocardia is both Latin and Greek. Dextro is
Oh.
Latin for right. Cardia is Greek for heart, which is just great. Thanks, English. Amazing. Anyway, with no segue at all, as usual,
Yeah, I know.
Kellaras
Yeah.
begins to think back on tales of heroism he'd hear as a child.
I mean, just imagine you've been riding in the cold, in the snow for days, and then you're in a warm bath. What do you think about? Obviously, you're going to start thinking about Legends of Heroes and Conan the Barbarian.
Right, yeah. I'm
I
sure
mean,
I would.
what else are you going to think about?
Obviously.
Especially when someone like Pelk is like scrubbing your back. This is the natural thought one should have, right?
Yeah, of course. Now, he's echoing Kagamandra and Orphanthal from earlier chapters, or
Yeah.
earlier books, I guess. Indicates Orphanthal. In short, Kellaras concludes that such tales hide with flowery language and grand notions the ugly truth beneath. Feelings don't count for much in such tales. Indeed, feelings are often the enemy. The hero is implacable, resolute,
Except
strong.
one feeling.
Yeah.
There's only one feeling which is allowed to the hero.
Satisfaction,
Cold
vengeance,
satisfaction. Cold satisfaction. Yeah.
right? But also cruel and uncaring, with precious few exceptions. Now, okay, Kellaras also echoes a lot of words of darkness here, but that's par for the course because everyone does. Anyway, inside the hero, claims the captain, is the thing that will kill you all. Because he is the master of all his. And I have a very vague memory of reading something similar to that in Kharkanas. Like, I am the master of all I survey. It's probably Kadashpala again in chapter 20, and I just don't remember because I didn't check
I
the
can
quote.
watch your after hours and find out very soon. So.
I honestly don't remember if that's where it's from, but it's something like that. I have a very vague memory of reading it. Anyway, it could be just this chapter and I just remembered. I don't know.
Okay.
Right. Kellaras, alas, was a veteran of the wars, as was Kagamandra, and his thoughts are very similar. And not once in his many battles had he found such a hero of legend. Wars are fought amidst feelings, and the shocking revelation that the combatants have surrendered all that they held so dear, their love, their compassion, their respect. Such a hero
Why are
could
you
never...
not quoting that? Why are you not quoting that? Why are you just summarizing
Because
that? Has it come already?
Take me, Kellaras. Well, exactly.
Oh, that bit about look what we are brought to this, that we should lose all that we hold dearest.
Yeah, that's right now, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good quote. I liked it.
Yeah, I mean,
Go on.
the fact that it's a bath scene for 5 pages aside, it's a very good monologue. It's just very odd to summarize.
I'm just telling you, it's very natural for someone to take a bath and think these thoughts. It's just because you've not done this.
Right. Okay. Right. right.
But you know,
Yeah.
honestly, you do tell us a lot about your shower thoughts. Like some of your dead house gates theories and all are probably shower thoughts, right? So see, look at you.
Enlighten me. I don't remember what you're talking about. Hang on.
I
What?
don't know. One or two posts when you make, you usually say that I had a shower thought and this is what I was thinking, and you make
Right.
some weird connection between some plots.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You do that. So why are you pointing
Yeah.
fingers
I mean,
at
I'm not.
Kellaras?
I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. I'm just pointing fingers at Steve for writing a fucking bath scene for 5 pages.
He's drawn from his own experience probably because see, you
I'm.
already do it.
I'm sure he is. No matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, such a hero could never be found here. And indeed, when Kellaras thinks back on those tales, he has no respect for such heroes or the singers of their tales. Misguided,
Why?
unfeeling children being exalted by poets. Have they considered the tyranny of the hero's triumph when they sing about their deeds? Moreover, have they considered how the audience would respond to such a tale? Does the blood still drip from their hand at story's end? And does it ever stop?
And immediately talk about when he starts talking about bloodied hands, only then he realizes that there is one pair of hands on him at
Yeah.
this moment. Yeah, and that's when it stops. So
Yeah. So,
it's a huge
Kellaras,
segue.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a segue ran wild,
Right,
right? Yeah.
right. Yes, of course.
No, I really like the thing where he says all these heroes of his childhood, they're all insane, which makes perfect sense. Do you know, just when you're still here, what hero do you think Steve is talking about? To me, it was. I think this was just straight about Anamander Rake. Is what I thought. All this,
Yeah,
he's
that's a
not
good
this
point.
hero, right? He's not a hero of this type of a legend. He's not this type of a hero. He does start out that way, but the Anamander we see in Told the Hounds at least is the opposite of this type of a hero. He's
Hmm.
not caught up with vengeance. He's not caught up with, I don't know, like all his actions don't cause destruction for everyone else. Like, you know. So I was only thinking about Anamander Rake here. He's not doing
Right.
any, yeah. He's not a hero of this type of a legend, not this
Hmm.
shallow hero. If you have, I thought you'll have some other hero, and you're going to surprise me with
I didn't
this is
really
what
have
he's
anyone in
talking
mind,
about.
actually. No, no, no. I didn't have anyone in mind.
Okay.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. But at least in Kharkanas, he is this type of a hero. He is
Yeah,
this cold satisfaction hero looking for vengeance, and doesn't matter how many people have to die so that he gets
hmm
his vengeance. So, oh
maybe
God,
less
Rake,
so
Rake
in
is such a great
Gallant's.
character.
Yeah,
Come on.
no,
What ramparts? I don't have any ramparts to man.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love Rake. That's it. Yeah.
You're the entire fort and just the ramparts.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is like not necessarily in Galant's Kharkanas, like in Fall of Light, from what we've seen, like the one scene we've seen him in this book, he mellows out a bit, but in the flashbacks of Kharkanas and like sundering adjacent events, he definitely filled that niche very much. Like he's outside a gate staring down Kilimandaros and like, well, like everyone's fucking dying in there, but I have nothing better to do today, so I might as well let's go kill everybody. So
Is that
yeah,
how you see
in
that? I thought it was him. I will help you guard this gate, regardless of what comes from it. I thought he was being nice there. Really? Is
I
that not
mean,
how
we
you read that
learn
scene?
from the Bone Hunters that he and his Andy went in, killed everything, and let the realm burn.
Is it? See? See? This is why I don't want to reread too much and
Yeah, see,
change
like
my mind about Rick.
Kalsa, Ampelas, and Eloth are supposed to have taken the throne of like Shadow to heal Emorlan with, but they were chained by an
Is
Amander
that
so that
why
no
they
one
took the
could
throne?
heal Emorlan in case someone sits on his throne. That's what they say, and that's what Cotillion believes. Yes.
Wait, wait. These three dragons tried to take Shadow just to keep it safe.
Yeah.
I
Not
don't
keep it
believe
safe. Well,
them.
to be fair, they are
To heal
more
it or
self-serving
whatever.
in the sense that like they just basically outright say
Shady. I think the
better
word
Nalint on the
we're looking
throne than
for is
another reader or a dice. They're they're lying, but they're upfront about the lying.
they're shady
If that
creatures of
makes sense.
shadow. So yeah. Can we come back to Pelk, please? Pelk.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
Pelk. Did I say Kelp? Yeah, it's Pelk.
Right. Hang on. Yeah. So Kellaras snaps back to reality, and he comes to understand that here, now, are feelings. Here was the language that spoke out against tyranny in all its guises. Here he was, giving this woman his heart, uncomprehending perhaps that fact, and unaware of what she might do with it. In his mind, then, he dragged the nearest poet close, grabbed the bastard by the throat, and ordered him to sing of love like one who knows it, and sing, at last, a true tale of heroes. Few could claim a life without
Oh,
regrets, but those
oh, this
regrets
is
lived
so
among
good.
the
Please.
realm of adults and not children. Yeah. Well, let me finish this.
I
As a
know.
matter of fact, that was the key difference between the two. Sing then of love and of a tale of true heroism. And yeah, this is
No?
yeah.
Yeah. Not sing to me.
Yeah.
Sing. What? Rage goddess. What is that? What's the thing with Iliad?
Uh
He doesn't ask
hang on.
to sing about love, right? He asks about to sing about
Yeah,
rage.
sing goddess of the rage of Peleus' son Achilles, which brought many
Yeah.
like things to the against.
Many people died. Much people. Much death. Many battle. So
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the Iliad is about
yeah. So this
the rage of Achilles from start to finish. So yeah, it's not so much a tale of love. The Odyssey is somewhat a tale of love, kind of.
is it. Do you know?
Eh,
Odyssey is about him going back to his wife, right?
Yeah,
Penelope. What's her name?
yeah,
Okay. And that's
Penelope.
what
Yeah,
Ulysses by James Joyce is about. It's about this guy
yeah,
not going back home because he knows she's cheating on him. Oh, that's that we are going to tackle one day.
hmm
Ulysses. It has 24 chapters because Odyssey also has 24 chapters or 24 sections or something.
hmm
So it's 24
absolutely.
hours in a day is what that book I bought it, that physical book. It's this huge. It's like bigger than Fall of Light. Yeah.
I
There's a
mean, yeah, I imagine
podcast
this.
of,
Yeah.
okay, why am I talking about it? There's a podcast where this guy does one line per episode. He just talks about one line per episode. I think he's in the fourth chapter now. And I look,
Right.
right. So this line comes up twice, and I don't know why you didn't mention that. Man or woman, what is it? No one lives a life without regrets, right? It comes up
Yeah,
twice.
yeah.
I like the line a lot
At the
because
start and
regrets
then
are,
the ending of the yeah.
it's not something children have, right? Regrets.
hmm
It is the forming of regrets which makes you an adult, which is what Arathan had to go through. Poor fellow. Now he regrets so many
hmm
things and he's grown up.
Right, right. One
I
day you
liked
will
it a
see that
lot.
regrets are as
This
nothing.
particular. Oh, the value lies in how you answer them.
Yeah,
Cotillion to, sorry, Cotillion to Upsalar.
yeah. To I think it was Cutter, no?
Why are these books so good and why are they so? No, I think he tells Upsalar that.
Yeah.
Should we look
No,
up?
that's the epilogue of House of Chains.
Are you sure it's
One hundred
to
percent.
Cutter, not to?
I'm positive.
Oh my god. Okay, I don't want to challenge you, but I'm still going to
It's
look it up. What
at
is the
the end of
keyword?
House of Chains when
Bow
Cutter
hunters?
regrets.
Oh, when they have Hawk and when he's carrying
Yeah.
Upsala. Is that when the thing comes? Okay.
No. It's at the end. Like
I could be
Cantillon has
maybe.
told like Absalar that he needs her for one last job, and she has taken on Cutter's deeds, so she left him to protect him. And then Cantillon goes on like she basically give him the news. Yeah, she's gone, bro, but you know she loves you, and she'll be back eventually.
Do you regret? Oh God, yeah, you're right. Do you regret what you did? Cutter is asking, and he says, "Regret? Yes, many, many regrets. One day, perhaps you'll see for yourself that regrets are as nothing. The value lies in how they're answered." My God, you're right. Shit.
Yeah,
Someday I'm going to get something right. Yeah, okay.
no
Could you
idea.
move on?
So
Unless you want to
Galan's
gloat
long
for a
overdue
bit.
bitching about those who last for blood is
Yeah.
delivered. We're dealing with a few technical issues right now. Please forgive me. So scene 3, which Mora was inquiring about, I have named beloved Anamander does not trust Silgas. Spoilers.
I mean,
So dinner is being served at Tula Hold.
Before you begin, may I
albeit
say,
Lady Hish remains particularly reserved. No word has come from the Citadel. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay.
yeah, it's just no problem. I can wait. Okay, see, anytime you give Steve few people and either a campfire or a dinner table, that he just runs with it, right? I've not read a single boring scene or a single boring campfire
Mhm.
scene. No, I don't know. He just comes into his element whenever these things, this setting exactly. Yes, it's a good one. Yeah, please continue. Continue.
Mhm. Right. So no word has come from the Citadel as Silgas, rather than rally the nobles' houseblades, has instead elected to rearm the Hust Legion, but has not joined them. As it stands, Galar Barris, with whom Kellaras is acquainted, is leading the Hust in Doris's absence. We know all this. Tish probably could well guess there's something going on beneath the surface. Indeed, Kish is rather unimpressed at the news. Silgas would recruit prisoners to arm the Legion. What loyalty would they have? To Mother Dark or to the people who rightly imprisoned them? No, the sack will bring about a new front to such a sordid war. Kellaris' only response is Prazak and Dathanar have been dispatched to the Hust, which enrages Grip, for Silkas had no right to command the Amander's Houseblades. Hish is somewhat more skeptical, for she had been seen Prazak and Dathanar in action. If ever Legends heroes walked among them, surely it would be them, which, by the way, goes completely contrary to Kellaris' assessment of the very same. And moreover, the two remind Hish of the strong undercurrent of Hedorsan Rill, strong as iron, but if you listen, you can hear that prattle. Kellaris confesses to have sent them from Kharkanas himself, Bersilkas ruins order, since Anamander is gone, and his shadow is white, not black, which is a curious distinction to make.
I mean, he's just saying it's
Um,
Silkas who's in command. Yeah,
Draconis is keeping himself busy.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's just the same thing. Yeah,
right. So Draconis is keeping himself busy within the Chamber of Night, which Hiss finds revolting. The man is desperately needed, and it's about time Kellaris banged against the door of the chamber, and if need be, physically pulled the man out. Now, Kellaris is aware of Draconis' battlefield prowess, which Grip filled us on. Apparently, Draconis snapped the neck of a Jellic clan leader like a twig, but beyond that, he can see no use for him, and certainly not to the extent that he professes. Simply put, no noble born would rally about Draconis. Hishtula is incredibly unimpressed by the prattling of the nobility, for base envy would cost them their lives, and even though she would stand with Draconis in a heartbeat, she is aware that functionally nobody else would. Indeed, Kellaris agrees. They are pissed at him for they cannot possess what Draconis does, not have the gall to accuse Mother Dark herself, and I'm not going to say this. And in conjunction with the battle against the border swords, the nobles would never rally about him again, if they ever did. I guess they did once with the Jalak, but not again. I
yeah,
don't know. Hish pushes the matter away and mentions Shrenas and Karu's word from Nerid Sor, professing Ursander's innocence. She thinks that makes no sense, and it probably isn't, and therefore would give Shrenas no assurances about a potential future conflict. Hish concludes that Ursander is a broken and bowed man, which isn't necessarily off base.
yeah, yeah. I'm here. Go on.
Yeah? Yeah. Okay. So Kellaris pointedly observes that her holding is not as isolated as she had hoped. No shit. And she concurs, albeit she replies that she has ordered Ransop to stay where he is, and thereby guard Suku and her keep. Lastly, she inquires about Orphandal, and Kellaris replies that though it's regrettable that Silkas is his lone guardian, Mother Dark people, enough with Silkas slander, he still misses his dearly. Grip understands that the kid will be traumatized by his acts, and though Kellaris tries to amend this, he too has to concur.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Grip changes subject and orders Belk to sit with them, and Hish invites her to share her thoughts. As a veteran, she well recalls Ursander's habit of seeking the high ground to survey the battlefield, but that's no longer possible when the battlefield is all of Kurl Ghislaine. Ursander is not the problem here, though, alas. That would be Silkas, seriously, enough, and by extension, Kellaras. Now, the captain concurs with me, and replies that Silkas well understands his extremity. He is also abandoned by both his brothers, and he must weather the storm of a civil war and an envious nobility alone. If anyone is at fault here, it's Anomander. Now, Grip gets pissed at that accusation and replies that Anomander would be at the Citadel if not for Anderist. Hish gets pissed at that accusation and rightly replies that he is judging a grieving man too harshly, to which Grip counters that Anomander very well could be in grief himself.
Yeah.
Now, Kellaras, at the behest of Pelk, goes on. Silgas pleads for Anomander's return, as he wants little more than to stand aside, which is probably not what Silkas actually said, but Kellaras' respect for Silkas is minimal, so, He also understands that Anomander won't easily be swayed. Accordingly, Grip resolves to set out tomorrow to find him.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
What happened?
Now, Hish explodes at this. Anomander promised him his freedom, and she begs Grip to deny Kellaras, which she immediately amends. Good call,
Yeah.
Hish. Deny Silkas. He has no right to such a demand. Grip responds that he's doing this for Anomander, which Hish counters by saying that Anomander will be very pissed at him if he breaks his word, for only his word counts for him. Now, Grip knows he's functionally the only person capable of bringing him back, and therefore it must be him. To make a long story short, Hish claims that she knows these men, but Grip replies that she does not know them well enough, and she drops a bomb for us. Anomander does not trust Silgas. He left to find Anderist because the third brother is a counterbalance to the two of them. Grip resolves to bring Anomander here, and when Kellaras protests, asking that he be brought to the Citadel, the two Weds drop a second bomb for us. Anderist is with them in the locked-off wing of the Keep.
Yeah.
Ooh, shit. Ooh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
As I said, a
Yeah.
dinner table and people sitting around and
too
talking
bad.
is where Steve shines. So, one thing, um, Hish tries to stop him 3 times. He freed us, and she has 3 or 4 different counters, right, to each of his arguments. And the audiobook, you do know how well he does that. He goes more and
Mm-hmm.
more desperate, more and more desperate. And then at last, when he says, I have a truth which, there is one truth which, you don't know, you don't understand. And that's when Hish completely breaks down. He does such a good job of acting. This is when I almost cried at this part. When she says, you have, then why did he ever leave and all that? It's very
Mm-hmm.
good. It's very well done. Just one more thing I noticed, because we're talking about Orphantel and Sukul Ankadu. Sukul is still a very nice lady here, very nice young girl here. It's probably just because the framing, right? Because Galan is writing about young children, Menandor, and
Mm-hmm.
these people have not yet, grown into what they are going to become later. Unlike Envy and Spite, who were just born that way, but whereas Sukul and Sheltata and Menandor are still very young children. So Galan probably still has some allowance for their innocence.
We've not seen him in Endor, by the way.
We have not yet, but I'm just saying that I don't know if you're going to see. We're only seeing these two at least. But I'm just saying that there is a lot of lenience with the way these girls are written compared to how they're portrayed in Book of the Fallen. Probably because it's still very young. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
sorry. You can. Did you finish this section? I think there's one more bit.
That's one thing. The excuse given in the Book of the Fallen, not quite. There's a bit more.
Yeah, there is a bit. Yeah,
The excuse given in the Book of the Fallen is like they have dragon blood in them, so they
yeah,
get driven crazy and whatnot. We'll see.
yeah. They drank the blood, right?
Anyway, so what I wanted to bring up is that the iteration of things we have already mostly gone over, with a slow build up to these two bombshells, is why this chapter is really good for all its meandering. Kellaras' thoughts on nature and heroes, as well as Kellaras' purpose, all build up to contrast him with Hish and Grip, lending to a building tension centered on their disagreements. The chapter is very difficult to accurately summarize, but it's also really fucking well written. Just,
Yeah.
anyway,
Okay, I have a question.
in any case, Grip outright tells Kellaras that Andrew,
Anderist has locked himself in this wing with the servants. Did they have like drone delivery of groceries or what? What are they eating?
Mhm.
How long can they keep eating? A whole winter season, they don't have to go step outside for food or firewood? How are these guys locked up in a wing? Just exaggeration, right? It's just Galan saying they're locked in. But it just means that he's sitting in his room and moping and not making conversation, maybe. I mean, it's harsh to say moping. I mean, he's grieving.
Probably. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think he's literally permanently 24/7
Yeah.
locked in.
Yeah. Go on, go on.
Yeah. Right. So, in any case, Grip outright tells Kellaras that Andorus is not for him. He would refuse to see him, for he is here because Hish was the only person to stand with him in his hour of greatest need. Oh god, one sec.
We're back.
Yeah, go on. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Again. Anyway. So, when he inevitably finds Aramander, he will bring him here first. Kellaras concedes with a dumbfounded expression. Belk pulls him out of it, then informs him that Grip is leaving tomorrow. Kellaras gazes one last time upon Hish's face and realizes the true extent of the discord he brings. In his closing thoughts, he remarks that Pranzak and Dathanar are not alone in grieving the discord he brings. He did not choose this task, it found him.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
once again.
please. We're back.
Yeah. Okay, so that concludes scene 3. And scene 4, I remember every poor bastard I went and killed because I like Rebel. And yeah. So,
You like
without further
Rebel,
ado,
right?
a murder has occurred in the Hast camp. Rebel, Warith, and Listar are on the case, none too pleased with another such occurrence. Someone seems to be killing men who killed women. More to the point, they don't seem to leave any tracks, despite the killed men being dumped quite a distance from where the murders actually took place. A woman steps up and informs the two men, with Listar gone to investigate for tracks, that this murdered fellow went by the name of Ginail from White Crag Pit, which is quite far away from where they are. Warith is apprehensive of the whole situation. He has earned no loyalty from anybody. At any moment, his command could collapse. Self sees God, but he does what he must. Lister returns, no tracks as usual, and his use of "sir" makes Warith cringe. Rebel, Warith's new corporal, commands the people gathered to take the body to the fires and strong arms this woman, whose name is Rance, to stay with them. She too is apprehensive of the whole situation, but Rebel's temper is more than reason enough to stay her. We learn that Rance apparently drowned her own baby with no memory of the event, but everyone says she did it, so she must have. And Warith gives her a hard stare, which his inner monologue betrays is little more than games of disguise. His greatest secret is known to all, and yet still he torments himself with the knowledge of his cowardice. He even laments the fact that a murderer going loose in the camp isn't enough to distract them. Rebel jests with Rance, speaking up is dangerous, and Warith informs her that she is to be the new squad leader. She immediately declines, inadvertently passing the first test. Old Rebel can hear her say no 20 times, her skull too. Rance continues. They won't follow her, but then again, Warith amends they won't follow anyone. Rance asks the lieutenant flatly if he ran, and he calmly replies that he did, like an ass-poked hare, which is a metaphor. To his surprise, Rance does not seem to have any contempt for him. She instead says that she will be right next to him next time. Warith can sometimes hear the muttering of a hast sword, like a child trapped in the jaws of a wolf, and thinks that such screaming would awaken painful memories within Rance. Warith believes that she must live with the fear of one day remembering. Rance replies that the killer they're looking for could be a woman, and Warith inwardly concurs, and Rebel formally informs her that she has joined the investigation. She doesn't want the killer caught, but then again, neither do they. Galar just needs this matter settled. Rance replies that the matter will settle when all the woman killers are dead, but such a thing is not feasible, could be a few hundred or more. Wareth also notes that Rance's hard hands are red, as if recently scalded, and her face seems guarded. Now, the woman then tells Wareth to simply tell Galar how things are. The men who kill women are cowards, with minds filled with dark knots, who would lose their mind at the first fit of bloodlust and welcome it. Such men as the murdered are worthless in an army, for they will run and make trouble with a woman. She concludes, better to see them all dead.
Sir.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
No, she adds sir at the end.
Listar? Yeah. Oh, yeah, the sir at the end, yeah. Listar was standing a few paces behind them, silent, and Worth knows Rance knew of his crime. Of course she knew. That's all they talk about. As if it'll taste any better if you chew on it enough. Rebel steps up and tells Rance that not all of them are cowards, and some killings just happen in a red haze. And that's how forgetting and not remembering becomes the worst part of a murder. But not for Rebel. Rebel can remember every poor bastard he killed. The ones he meant to, the ones he didn't. All their names blend together in the end, with nobody the wiser. What Rebel can't remember is the why. He can't remember a single reason. Morris tries to see a point beneath Rebel's words, but Rance simply nods along. The corporal takes Lister away to search Guineal's tent, leaving Wareth alone with the woman. He orders her to come along, and she voices no objection. She claims that she had forgotten about Listar, and Wareth replies that Rebel figured she was looking at the wound, and he didn't like it. Moreover, Lister wants nothing more than to die. He looks at the bodies of the murdered and wishes that could have been him. Wareth isn't particularly optimistic about the outlook of the Huss Legion. Any second now, it will all fall apart. Too many deserters, too few Legion soldiers to make a perimeter. Rance protests, but Wareth points out that she wasn't anywhere near her camp during the murders. She replies that nobody back at the camp would accept her, and Wareth tells her to find someone to make her a rebel. A woman named Velkatal, who abandoned her 6 children, yikes, after informing her that whatever fate befalls Rance will befall her as well. That's how the Huss make squad leaders. Alas, Rebel's reasoning for keeping Wareth alive is known only to him, since he kept him alive long before the Huss soldiers came to the mines. Rance asks if Wareth has killed a woman before. He declines, merely replying, "There's all kinds of cowards out there."
Is he a coward because he didn't kill a woman yet, or?
No, I think it's more like,
Yeah.
All
It's
women,
cowardly
all
to kill
men
a
who
woman
kill
is what-
women, yeah, all men who kill women are cowards, when all cowards kill women. I think is what it's getting at.
No, you could read it either way if you don't know who is Wareth.
Oh yeah, I mean probably.
Okay, then
Scene 5, which is
what are you
amazing.
naming this? Shallow woman. You're going to name this?
I'm
Are
not
you
gonna
that
name it
shallow
Shallow
woman?
Woman. No.
Oh, what are
I
you
named
named
it.
it?
I can but try because
Oh,
God
yeah. Good one. Yeah. My approval.
So yeah, Buckland Boys. This is a long one. Right. No. Oh dear. Okay. So far ahead is a woman impossibly fleeing her future. In her waking moments, she could see Hakamantratulas riding for her without malice, but simply the promise of fate. In her sleep, she sees Spinoctorov, a man she is fated never to have, armored against all her charms, and that galls. She would wake and walk through the camp tents, taking in the routine, the mechanical certainty of an encamped army, and she looks to the east, awaiting the arrival of a broken cog, seeking a new routine of husband and wife. Galar had summoned her to a staff meeting, but she couldn't see a point to that. She needed to write back to her company regardless, back to Khaled and Spinock. Would the commander be awaiting her there, or would he ride towards her? And if so, what right should she take to avoid him on the way back? Because it seems that Thais are allergic to talking things through, but nothing new under the sun. Walking through the camp, Farrer thinks back to the catalytic event for disarmament, Hunral's poisoning. Restitution of the Legion was a righteous goal, but she was unconvinced if it was worthy of fighting a civil war over. Then again, Ral sought to prevent the civil war from starting in the first place, but in that he failed. As Farah reaches the command tents, she remarks that this army is killing itself. She can't quite comprehend what's keeping it together. Or rather, she doesn't want to comprehend what's keeping it together. She chalks it up to the endless chattering of the Host armor and weapons, whispering their desires to each of these soldiers, which I think is terribly unfair. I'm going to be honest, I don't think this is
Why?
the case. Because it
You
removes
don't think the
all sorts of
weapons are.
agency from these people. Like, are they only
No,
doing what is right because like the weapons are whispering to them?
no, but if you can find somewhere to divert your excuse, why wouldn't you grab it? If you can blame the weapons, why wouldn't you blame the weapons? Isn't this
I mean, I'm sure Farah
so
would,
typical
but
of
like
Deist thinking? Yeah,
it is,
it's
it
not
is.
me,
That's
I
why it's
didn't do it.
unfair.
The weapon made me do it. Yeah.
Yeah. At last, she enters the command tent and finds the commanding officers of the Khas Legion. Quartermaster Seltin Regandas, whom I think we mentioned the first time he appeared, if he would
We
appear
saw him
again.
before.
Yeah.
I know.
Cap-
Yeah, we're idiots. Yeah.
Captain Castigan and Commander Galar Barris, each of them with their own woes. Castigan is the last original captain of the Legion, spared during the night of the poisoning by his weak bladder, and spends most of his day cursing his weakness and, more than anything, those in Kharkanas who seek to resurrect the Legion. A few moments later, a handful of officers from the prisoners enter.
Yeah.
A smith named Curl, who apparently murdered his partner for no foreseeable reason. A woman named Errol, who fed her husband to his family as supper, a woman that even Rebel fears apparently, though Farah is more impressed by Warith, whom she somewhat understands, albeit she hardly trusts him. The rest of his officers are comprised by two partners in crime and love, who broke into an estate in Kharkanas and were charged with the murder of the home's denizens, despite the fact that functionally everyone knows they didn't do it because the keep's lord did, but it's his word versus the word of 20 thieves in Coral Galen. Yeah. Warith arrives not
I
long
mean,
after with Rance, for whom Fire. Yeah?
do you really believe them? What do you really believe these two stories that they
Yeah.
walked in on a rape and murder going on, and you do believe them?
Yeah.
I think they made up that story because this is what they ended up doing. No, it is too much of a coincidence. They walk in to for plain robbery just on the night when this guy decides to murder his own family.
Yeah.
How unlikely is that? No,
I mean,
I don't
this
believe
is
that.
Galan's poetic license now.
Yeah, but it's just so unlikely for such a thing to happen.
I mean, I'm not going to say it isn't unlikely, but it's also unlikely that 3,000 men and women die in a single night by poison. All I'm saying is, like, this is, I think, deliberate from Steve to juxtapose the purported crimes of these characters with their characters, like their personalities, rather.
Ah,
Like Wareth a coward,
that
yes,
that
but
makes
he is
sense.
also the first person to stand in defense of the woman. Lister
That's true.
apparently kills his wife, but he's the first person to assist a woman. Rebel has a temper and he's like ready to drop a hat at any moment and then drop a hat himself, but he has seemingly a heart of gold and is an honorable individual. These two apparently killed a whole bunch of people, but they're gay, so why would they sexually assault? You get the idea.
I mean, no, it says something like their sheer popularity and they're very sharp of mind
Yeah,
and precision
yeah.
of their wit and all that. So what you're saying makes sense. Yeah, there is a lot of juxtaposition between their crimes and their
And of
personalities.
course,
So fine.
none
Yeah,
of that,
I'll take.
yeah,
I'll.
yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, none of that is
I.
chalked up to their characters by the dice. It's the swords, it's the weapons, it's the armor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so Wareth arrives not long after with Rance, for whom Farrer can at least muster some sympathy. Now, Galar cuts to the chase, and he announces that the Hust will begin distribution of their weapons and armor, causing Castigan to joke. The blades, he claims, are eager for blood. Now, Galar dismisses this. The blades respond to pressure and temperature and sing accordingly, which, for the record, would make for a very shitty weapon if its resonance frequency is so audible. One strike from another blade and the arm would shatter. They're not alive. But Castigan is unimpressed, claiming that his sword visits him in his dreams. Jesus Christ. And begs him to be his hand of vengeance, to which Galar does not respond, instead ordering Warith to report.
Yeah.
So about the resonance frequency thing, imagine like someone strikes his chest plate and just goes like I do not want to be in that thing because that's like a recipe for blunt force trauma.
Okay,
Anyway.
so the word tuning fork.
Moving on.
Isn't that a bit of I don't know? Isn't it too modern of a word, tuning fork? Do you think some
Yeah,
people
it is
like
a bit, yeah.
the Thai society would have had something like that? Yeah, it didn't make sense to me. But then, if they had music instruments, they would have
I mean,
had a
if they
tuning fork.
understand differences in like if they understand that vibrations are caused by differences in temperature, which probably isn't actually the case, but whatever, and that what they hear is pressure, they probably would
No,
know what a tuning fork is.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's probably the phrase which stands out to me. But yeah, go on.
I mean, a lot of this sounds a bit like pseudoscience and slash or like fantasy augmented science fiction things, because that's not how resonance works. But
See, there is magic. There is magic. Will you
yeah,
just
I
stop
mean,
it? I
yeah.
thought I'll just stay quiet this time, but please. There is pressure and tension and magic. Are you happy?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So Warith doesn't have anything to mention beyond the usual. Another murder, another body moved without a trace, another mystery. But he has brought along Grants, who has the makings of an officer. Galar asks her if he should distribute the husk weapons, and Grants is very reticent. She doesn't seem thrilled with the idea. Now, Castigan is very much not thrilled with the idea, but Denner and Callaghan, the two thieves earlier, add that chaos has already taken over the camp, and they're scant a little worse than arming the troops and giving them something to do. Now, Galar agrees, and moreover claims that Ursander is going to march on them any minute now, to which Farah replies that would be foolish, due to the wardens being camped nearby, and Castigan jumps in and informs her that the wardens are no more, which Galar regrettably confirms. The captain's a hard bastard living in hard times, and in his view, there's hardly time for sentiment. Bollocks. This effort has failed. Send a rider to Silkas, tell him the Huss Legion is no more, and exhort him to sue for peace. Now, of all those things, Farah's first thoughts are about her commander first and her cousin second. Moreover, Finara has written to the Sheikh. Are they informed of all of this? Oh, yeah. No, I'm not
No.
going to
If
mention
you're
the
going
shallow
to
woman
start
thing. No,
judging
I'm not going
Farah,
to defile Farah like that.
yeah, thank you. Thank
I'm
you
not.
very much.
I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So Warith provides her a stool, and she sinks down while Galar and Castigan are arguing. The mission is now imperative. The Legion has 2 weeks to be ready for marching, and there's no choice left. Castigan fires back. The only choice left is surrender. Galar pointedly ignores him and orders Warith to gather his officers, sergeants, and corporals, take them to the training ground, and see them armed. Warith is to be armed with his old blade, which he rails against, but Galar denies him. Selton is also dispatched with Warith to see to it that the wagons remain guarded, and if all goes well, the regulars will be armed in 2 days' time. He dismisses everyone to speak with Farah. Castigan mutters something about honor, and Galar angrily dismisses him, which descends into an argument. Castigan does not fight in honor's name, but in guilt's, and he will be far more suiting to swallow it down whole. At least that will keep him on his feet. Turns out, Castigan was a legionnaire in Sanders Legion, and Galar all but invites him to desert and sell the intelligence he has gathered to the commander. The captain leaves, disgruntled, leaving Farah and Galar alone. Ooh dear.
Yeah. Poor Galarparas. Young Galarparas.
Yeah, there's more, and it only gets worse from here for the poor guy. So, the commander turns to Farah and tells her that what Rent did was unforgivable. But the warden snorts. It's not like he needs forgiveness where he is. As it stands, Sulgas has full command of all the forces in Coral Galain, save for the hostages of the noble houses. But when Anamander returns, it will be Sulgas taking Galar's place. Torres might, or might not, be returning to lead the Hust. So, for the time being, with Galar's ship for officers, he is appointing Ferrer Hand as captain in the Hust Legion. Khaled has lost his command as the Wardens are no more, and the few survivors are fleeing to the Hust camps. Farrer pleads with Galar to send a rider to Yedra Monastery and appoint Finara instead, but that will take time. Until then, Farrer will be the commanding officer. Her protestations seem to sting Galar. Once upon a time, the Hust Legion was a name spoken of with pride. They held against the Forlican, they saved Kharkanas, and they saved Coral Galain. Farrer replies that she is not a soldier, and Galar laughs. Has he not heard that enough times already? Her last question, where will you find glory in such men and women, is shut down by the commander's response. I can but try.
I know. Applause to Galarparas.
Yeah. There's not that much deep thoughts to talk about here, but
No.
beyond what we already talked about the prisoners being given oh no, it's not you guys actually having a spine, it's clearly the swords and the armor that's influencing you. Obviously. Duh.
Yeah, it's telling them in their dreams to go fight, to go kill people. So.
Yeah. Gospel. Okay, let's wrap this up. So last scene is with her boys, Prazak and Dahanar. And I have
Title?
titled it That Stretched the Breath. They did not. Now, having aroused themselves for a proper speech, the captains of Anamanda's Houseblades are disappointed to note that their audience is neither downtrodden nor particularly peasantry. No matter, for Prazak shall deliver his stirring speech no less, a speech to churn emotions, to swirl thoughts, but he ought to save the last handful of spice for the final turn. Athena remarks that these individuals won't simply be stirred by a slap, for they have collected their loot, axes, cudgels, and spears, in the dock, leading him and Prazak to the inevitable conclusion that they deserted the Hust Legion, for forest bandits would not be quite so zealous with their brush cutters. Three men step up to greet the Houseblades, and Prazak begins to deliver his stirring speech. They understand that these three men are deserters of the Hust, but it's quite fortunate for them that they happened upon the two captains, for they will be lenient, and rather than try and force them upon them something so mentally challenging as a forced march, they will simply carry them along like sheep. Or goats, depending on your perspective, due to the ill-disguised belligerence they're displaying. One of the men asks them if they sweat perfume, and Prazak, after explaining to Dathanar the intricacies of goatly humor, replies that sweat belongs to the unwashed multitudes, and why, if he would rather smell perfume, he would only have to bend back to his own ass. Dathanar chastises Prazak for bending low to crass regard, but Prazak replies that he must speak the man's language in order to be understood. Their spokesman cuts them off and informs them that they are presently being robbed. How kind. And indeed, he manages to string a few coherent sentences to the point of impressing the two Houseblades. Dathanar remarks that his thoughts were stretched unto breaking. They resolve to dispense with leniency, for surely the Hust will forgive them their display of discipline here. A man from the crowd advises against attacking the Houseblades because they's fucking hammered, in fact. Which prompts Dahanar to commend the man for his wise words, but before he can elaborate, the two Houseblades get charged. No matter, for they rather quickly dispense with the deserters in like 2 paragraphs and go back to conversation. Wise words are rarely heeded. Few enough now to see them march in proper cadence, that of the defeated and the cowed, the battered and the bruised. And the two resolve to round up the stragglers and make them
And the
proper.
shuffle.
And the shuffle, yeah. After bantering a little more about the dead men, Biskin kissed Prazek's horse's forehoof. Another lost a scalp, and yet another flanked his head one way and his body another by means of death and a sword. And they conclude that indeed these men are sheep and not goats. It's high time they dogged them, for now they shall surely heed their bite. Together, the two men, along with the deserters, march back to the camp of the Huss Legion. Well, more like shuffle, whatever. Overhead, crows had already gathered, wheeling and crying out their impatience. And that was that.
What color
And
crows?
everybody clapped.
White or black?
We don't know. Again. Yes.
You know? Okay, so you know what this section should have been titled? Sheepdog. Sheepdog would have been a good title. I think it's one episode in Bluey, Sheepdog.
Right.
So
They're herders. Like the Wiccan
these-
cattle dogs.
yeah, it's like they're going to dog them back, right? Because they've turned out to be sheep after
They're
all.
sheep, yeah.
They're not goats.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, they're so good, these two. I don't know why I was so hesitant to read them during my first read. I didn't like them so much, but now it's exactly like Shakespeare. You read the first time and you think, what is all this thing happening and why are they talking like this, and then you start to appreciate it, right?
Okay,
So
since
they
we brought
do
up
talk
Shakespeare.
about what this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, go on.
But they talk about churning emotions, and they save a last handful of spice, which is what this section is, right? For this chapter, this is the last handful of spice because it's a quick, tiny battle. Yeah. Yeah, go on. Shakespeare?
So, since we talked about Shakespeare, there is a scene in Titus Andronicus where a character goes, and I shit you not, villain, I have done thy mother. And like, just give me something like that in this book. Like, give me Prazak and Dahanar going up to Ra and just telling me, I fucked your mom. Just, yeah. That's all I have to share.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
You're most welcome.
This is not bad. We're not even like 90 minutes yet.
Yeah.
Right? It's a
I
good
went
chapter.
by remarkably quickly.
No, it was that Warith, the murder and Farrarhen sections, which was just purely what's happening and what's happening.
Yeah.
The other sections needed some talk.
Right.
So, was
Do
it
you
fun?
have anything more to add to the ending spice there? The last handful of spice?
No, I just said that. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very enjoyable. So again, there is crows. How does Steve do
And
this?
yeah.
Does he like finish writing a chapter and then go and add these things? Well, let me add one sentence at the front and then let me repeat that sentence at the end of the chapter. Does he do like that? I don't know.
So from what little I've read, I think what he ends up doing is he very rarely like does this where he starts a chapter and he's gonna finish the chapter. Nothing in between. He
Yeah.
just starts here, he goes through it, the entire thing, and it goes to the end. So I think he just starts with this crow motif and said, like, okay, how would I bring this back to the crow motif? And what do the crows symbolize? So, more than that, there is the symbolism of, the deserters of the Huss Legion marching back, broken and cowed and beaten. And like crows be circling Razak and Dathanar. I guess they liken them to carrion.
Yeah.
What else is there?
You were
Nothing
saying
immediately
something
comes to
about hands, scalded hands or something.
mind. That's for later. Well, let's not
sure.
talk about that now.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I
we didn't
bring this up
spoil
for the
anything.
rereaders who
Great.
actually know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a rereader, but I don't know what.
We'll talk about this later in private. I can't elaborate now because spoilers. Yeah.
Right. So, okay, we're not even halfway through this book. We are at 30%. And
Yep.
we've been going for like 2 months now.
Yep.
No regrets,
Yeah.
right?
So at present pace, this will take us up to like what, December,
I think so.
something thereabouts. So yeah.
But yeah,
By the time you're seeing this, is probably like early October. So hi,
is it? Okay.
something like that.
Yeah, but see, please, I would like tell people to take a break in between and like
Yeah.
read Cradle because
Read
it
Cradle,
refreshed
read
me a lot,
something else.
seriously.
Yeah.
Anything short and fast and non Kharkanas. Even one of the novellas, even that would do. Because these are heavy. You do need a break, right? I feel so much better. I'm not someone to just take a break and come back to a book, but it feels good with Fall of Light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. I mean, there is a measure of dread between like reading Cradle and then trying to summarize this, but I don't know. Like I did the summary in like 2 days, and it flew
Yeah.
by compared to the chapter 7 summary from like 3 or 4 days. Well, less than that, but it felt like that, and it was very difficult. So yeah, a break is very much recommended because it helps to get that mental reset of I'm not looking too deep, but when I do look deep, there is something there. In other books like
Yeah.
Cradle, there is maybe potentially something there, but you don't really care because it's more fun if you don't look and just let yourself be immersed. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did ask our friend about something in Cradle. I said, "Is this what is happening?" And then he said, "It's not that deep. Just keep reading." So, all right. Anything anything to note for chapter 9 next week?
um I don't believe so. I
Rafa?
don't think
Just Rafa.
these two. Oh, yeah, just Rafa. I don't think these two chapters necessarily interlink. I recall
Hmm.
there is a
But see,
well.
we
Yeah.
were promised in chapter 5 that the tone is going to change,
I
and we are back to the old tone now, right? There are
mean,
no
kind of.
wayward
Yeah.
Azathanai. There is no death against war against death.
Well, you got one chapter of that. Come on, you can't complain too much.
I mean, we got two chapters, and then we are back to the same old tie stuff.
Yeah, but compared to like battle in chapter 1, gloom and dread in chapter 2, and then Glyph and Narad. Yeah, it's a bit
I don't
different.
remember each chapter like that.
Yeah, it feels
Okay.
like an eternity ago.
Yeah, it was months ago. So, shall we wind up?
Yeah.
Sharp
So
1 minute 30 seconds. 30 minutes.
yeah,
1 hour 30 minutes. Yeah.
yeah. All right.
Bye.
So yeah, thank you. Goodbye.
Good night.